Hello YouTube, today at PowerJack, or not PowerJack. The information above is for a different business. Our primary business is PowerJack repairs. We do connector replacements on the PowerJack replacements on the laptop computers. Now, eventually, we started to get USB Type-C connectors, those guys, and they take a lot more time to replace. And the pricing is different for those. So the pricing above is not applying to, so the pricing for USB Type-C jacks is right here on usbcrepair.com. Again, we're the first people to repair USB-C ports. I got maybe a couple dozen videos on how we replace the connectors in here. Most of them made a couple years ago. And what I want to do is I want to show you what changed in a couple of years of connector replacements, of USB Type-C connector replacements, how I'm doing it nowadays. And slightly different from the videos from a few years ago. So this is Lenovo ThinkPad E490 E590. The motherboard, it says right here FE490, FE590, FE480. And the situation you need to understand is that usually Lenovo boards die, and they die because people wiggle the connector right here. They wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. They try to find the sweet spot. Eventually, something on the motherboard shorts out, and you could never, I could never bring any one of those back to life. So on the website right here, we pretty much specify that please send us the motherboard only if you can still make it work even for a second. Because if you can make it for a second, that means whatever chip burns out could be any one of those other chips. So yeah, the connectors we can replace. But on those Lenovo boards, we still don't know what to look for, what shorts out. That's the problem, all right? I tried to replace those guys, I tried to replace those guys, these guys, and still I still can't pinpoint what goes out on those boards when you wiggle it to death, right? So if the system works still sometimes, even for a second, depends on how you wiggle it, then great, you're in good shape. If the system doesn't work at all, I honestly don't have time to take the systems apart and then put them all back together and replace the connectors, because our fee is we only charge you if we can fix the problem. If we can replace the connector and everything gonna work fine. If we replace it and it doesn't work fine, and you know what, it seems like this is one of those cases when, well, no, I could see some physical damage right here to the plastic pin, and I see some damage to the metal casing around the connector. So this one is probably gonna work. All right, without any further ado, what I found that works on those particular stuff is not a Kapton tape. We usually use Kapton tape to insulate the components nearby the jack, and regular connectors. Now, when it comes to USB Type-C, the problem with that tape is it's not sitting in place. Also, we use the 3M, one of those rolls is $15, this tiny roll. Well, nowadays maybe 20 because of the inflation. And we used to use it on those boards, and it used to work fine. The only problem is because it's a tape, it sometimes can lift off one of those filters, which you can't see on the camera. I will show you under the microscope. Right behind the connector, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 filters. Those are tiny little black pieces right there. And they don't require any heat to be lifted off the motherboard. Basically, if you have hot air blowing on top of this board here, that little filter gonna just take off and fly away. So that's the biggest problem when it comes to replacing the connectors. Is not so much to replace the connector, but to make sure none of those filters gonna fly away. I'm sure if one of those flies away, it still might work, but for the most part, what you wanna do is you wanna be extremely careful about those filters, and you need to do everything in your power to make sure none of those filters gonna fly away. You will see it under the microscope, but I'll show you under the microscope in a second. But this one, this guy, and this guy, and you probably can't see anything. Anyways, I will switch to the microscope and I'll show you the filters I'm talking about. So the biggest hurdle in replacing the connectors, by the way, why there's not so much light? Maybe this guy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's plenty of light, just the foil was reflecting. So the problem is when the time comes for the filters, we can't use the 3M tape anymore. We can't use the Kapton tape anymore. I mean, we can, but honestly, after a couple of years of doing things, I just use the foil, regular foil. So what I do here, I align it across the back of the connector. All right. And I secure the foil with the Kapton tape to the motherboard. And I press on the foil so it will take shape of the motherboard. That way it doesn't want to fly off the motherboard as much. All right, so here, like that, okay, okay. All right, let's secure it with the tape. So this is the most important step. Everything else is really no big deal. All right, you have to insulate the nearby components and prevent any sort of airflow on those components, especially here on this side. Next thing what you want to do is you want to take this guy out like that. And this LED light next to the connectors usually, they fly off the motherboard every single time, but it's no big deal because I can solder it back on. There's only 3 soldering points there. And even without this LED light, everything gonna work. So if it flies off the motherboard, no big deal. But if you can use some insulation on top of that, then you should be golden. Like that. Like that. All right, so this is the most important step in replacing the connectors, the USB Type-C connectors. All right. I mean, if you haven't done this, you might as well throw away the motherboard. Don't send us, I mean, I know that most of the people try to fix the laptops themselves, and that's the reason why we have 1,000 plus videos on this channel. But quite honestly, if you're not doing this, when it comes to USB Type-C repairs, please just don't, I mean, I would not be able to fix any filters that have flown off the motherboard. I mean, I can fix them only if I mess it up, because I have a couple years experience with this particular connector itself, because it's been a couple of years since I made my first video about USB-C repairs, and I don't know, a couple hundred laptops, maybe 1,000 USB Type-C repairs later. This is what I'm doing to every single USB Type-C connector. Again, stressing the point that make sure those filters are not gonna fly off the motherboard, all right? They are there. I mean, if you can't see it with your eyes, they are there. I will show you under the microscope what the filters I'm talking about. So if you're as old as I am, you can't see it. But let me, I mean, oh wait, I'm not gonna show it to you under the microscope because I already insulated them. Anyways, once I take the insulation off, I will show you the filters under the motherboard because I'll need to check to see if they're all there. All right. Another thing is you probably want to insulate this connector so it wouldn't melt down. So try to insulate like that. All right. Okay. So I like it. All right. Now, the easiest way to take this connector off is that you want to add some leaded base solder. Some people say low melt solder, but it seems like the low melt solder and regular lead base solder has pretty much similar melting points. So I'm adding just not a low melt solder, but just regular solder on not silver base solder, but just regular solder to the top, to the bottom, And I never press on the connector to get off the motherboard, simply because if you press on the connector when it's coming off the motherboard, it will take out the pads on the motherboard that are on the rear row. It got two rows. Basically, this is the inner row right here, even though it's in kind of two rows, one row, second row, and then the third row on the other side of the motherboard. So the goal is to add some solder here, then add some hot air, and using a lot of flux, get this connector off the motherboard and make sure that nothing gonna flow off the motherboard. So let me show you if I'm doing this. Alrighty, so here, let's move the camera. This is how the connector looks on the... This is just something that was laying around here. So as you can see, the pins going through the motherboard and the rear pins right there. You probably can see it, but I will show you, don't worry about it. Again, I have done more connector replacements over the last 25 years than anybody else in the world. So what I'm saying here is something that you might want to take into consideration. All right? All right, so let me put the silicone pad underneath here. All right. So what I'm doing next is I am adding some flux. And we are out of flux. Yeah, we are out of flux. All right, so let me go get a new flux. All right, hold on 1 second. All right, so this is the flux we use right here. Comes like that, and like that. All right. So what I usually do is we take the cap off. All right. Take the cap off. Once the cap is off, usually you can just put a syringe like that, but because I press on it all the time, I just throw it away. All right. One of those flux dispensers here, which I insert like that. And we got the tip here. And we put a new needle onto the flux. All right. And then we have this pusher, which eventually basically makes a flux dispenser like that. All right. Now, I know most of you don't care about it, and we're just gonna throw away that guy. All right, so now that we got a brand new flux, all right, let's try one more time. Let's pump it up. All right, too much. All right, that's a lot more than I expected, because I was looking at the camera while all of that stuff was coming out. All right, so here. All right, that's way more flux than I need, but anyways, here like that. And we take the regular solder, we power up the hot air just to warm up the motherboard so that the new solder would penetrate deeply into the all right, like that, and like that. Good job. All right, you see how the new solder penetrated into the motherboard here. Flip this guy over, and we're just gonna add a little bit more solder here, a bit more solder there, right there, and right there. All right, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is add a whole bunch of flux in the back here. All right, and we will try to get this guy off the motherboard. All right, now in order to get it off the motherboard, I need to bring it closer. All right, like that. Alrighty. Boost the temperature a little bit. For everyone it's a different temperature. For me it's around 400 or so. Alright. And what I'm doing here, I'm just making sure that the solder is flowing on the points that have the biggest thermal, so to speak, thermal mass. Alright. So once it's flowing, you see it's starting to come off by itself. Alright. Starting to come off by itself. Now we flip it over. And here we just lift it off like that. Okay, good job. Now most of the people out there, now I want to reduce the most of the people put a new jack right away. Basically, while the old solder is melted, they put, well, not most of the people, the other YouTubers who make those kind of videos I've seen, they just replace it with the new connector, which is fine. I tried that, but I think that I would rather do it the way I'm doing it right now. And the way I'm doing it right now is like that. I'm sucking all the solder from every single hole there is. Oh, by the way, I did reduce the temperature on the hot air by a lot. Like it's around 300 or so. Just keeping the motherboard warm. Alright. And the goal is to remove all the excess solder from every single hole. Like that. Alright, something along those lines right here. Alright. Looks good to me. Alright, let's flip this guy over. And we got some excess right here. Alright. I'm walking through all of this stuff. Alright. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go through every single one of those holes and make sure that every single hole is nice and empty. Alright, looks good. Looks good on this side. Alright, and you can see on the other side right away, one of the pins pushed out. So what we want to do is we want to clean up this side. Like that. Alright. Alright, so this is clean. Good job. That's basically what I'm dealing here with. Let's see what we can do. Now, when I'm working on jacks like that, I can see that it doesn't seem like anything was broken here, except maybe on the inside. So it's always iffy. Iffy if the... All right, let's get the... All right. All right. We got... Okay. Yes, you can see right away under the microscope, there is something stuck right here. You see this? This guy. And that's the reason I don't put something stuck right there. That's the reason I don't put a new jack right away, because something could be stuck inside. Okay. Yeah, so we got here. Alrighty, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna add some plugs. Alright, plugs right there. Alrighty. And now what I'm gonna do is try and push the remains of the old connector through like that. Like that. All right. Okay, good job. Excellent. Okay. I like. Okay. Let's see the other side. And you can see where it came out right there. You see this guy? Okay, so we need a little bit more air. And we see another one right there. So two guys came out. And another one right there, which we're gonna... Again, whatever works, guys. I mean, for me, what works is to remove every one of those pins from every one of those come on. Right, there is still something stuck right here. Everything else seems okay. So we got people texting us because we say on the website, please text us instead of calling. Okay, let's try and get Let's try and get this guy out of here. Yep, like that. All right, where did it fly off to? Anyways, here, and this guy here. All right, I hope this one is going to be fine. Here we got, well, let's look in 3D. Do we have anything that raises up here? Anything? Nope. Nothing. All right. And what I learned from the other YouTubers, what they do, what I never used to do, but now I'm dealing with it, is this. Let me show you. Again, I never done it. I mean, I'm doing it nowadays, but for several years I refused to do it because I was thinking, why bother when there's a longer way to do it? But I guess the faster you do it, the more money you're gonna make. So I give up on doing it my way, and I followed what other people are doing. So let me show you. So what we do is we go through every one of those pins right there. All right. All right, that's good. My only concern is this guy right here. Seems like there is a pin stuck in there. All right. Yeah, and as you can guess, I will just put a brand new connector on top of this, and I will use hot air to solder those guys in the back to the rear pins. First of all, I need to find which connector was here in the first place. Here. That's the connector that was here. This is the old connector. As you can see, some pins fallen off. So what we need to do is we need to solder those rear pins to those guys. And I used to use my micro soldering iron, for which I spent a couple thousand, so to speak. Basically, this tip alone cost $100. The pencil itself cost another couple $100. This base station also costs a couple $100. So, and you can't mix the solder on top of that tip, because if you mix the solder on top of that tip, then you out of a tip for $100. So let me go find one of those, and I'll be back in a second. Alrighty, so I got a brand new connector. Let me install it so that I would be able to manipulate the repair process here. So here, so that everybody would be able to see everything. All right, so technically it's supposed to be dropping easily into that area. All right, now let's stabilize the motherboard. Let's hope the motherboard is not resting on this pad underneath. It's supposed to be up in the air. If the board is not up in the air, you want to move it like that, so that the board would be up in the air. You see how the rear pins are sitting are sitting on top of those my $1,000 microscope. Nowadays, due to inflation, probably a couple $1,000 microscope is showing you that everything is in 3D. I went for a couple dozen of those microscopes. This one works for me the best, because if you look in the microscope all day, every day, your eyes get really messed up. All right, so my point is you want to place the connector. Don't press on it, because I'm sure it just rests on those. All right. So the goal right now to find the flux, which we're gonna use plenty of right there. All right. We're gonna use a whole bunch of flux here. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna attack it with the hot air. Ready? Let's go. All right, so once you see that it's melting down, you need to be pressing on top of this guy. I don't see anything melting yet. All right. All right. All right, looks good to me. You can see that the plastic on the connector starts to melt, so you need to take all the hot air off the equation. All right, and it seems okay. Does it seem okay? Yeah. That's also around 400 degrees. Again, give or take, depends on the nozzle type. I use the largest nozzle there is. All right, next thing. Stop talking and let's get things done. All right, so here we got as much flux as possible. All right, let's solder the rear points here. All right, let's solder this guy. All right, once it penetrates, and we're gonna solder it from the bottom as well, so the solder gonna pull through the board. All right, like that. Let's try this side. Good job. Yeah, excellent. All right, again, I'm doing all that knowing that if the laptop didn't work, stop working altogether, I'm probably not gonna get paid for it. So again, this isn't a business where you're gonna be making a lot of money. It's just business which I had for many years, and it survived every single recession, depression, dot-com bubble, housing bubble, and other corrections. All right, what I want to do is I probably want to put something underneath here. All right, is the zoom okay? All right, the zoom is okay. All right, let's try one more time here. All right, looks in focus. Looks relatively focused. Okay. Here we want to do something like that. And again. And again, this business, I'm all in it. So if there is something new that comes out, I always test it first. And if I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't use it. But here, let's try. Like that. Let's do like that. like that. I don't want to use this huge iron on top of those smaller pieces. Let's switch the view. Okay, like that. And zoom out a little bit. Let's use the smaller iron. And something along those lines. You know what? I wanna add more flux. Okay, like that. Let's cover up the flux because I don't think I need to use it today anymore. All right. And let's like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. I mean, you don't need a fine iron here. It just you see this jump right here. I don't want to do it like that. So, but with the bigger iron, this jump, this short, so to speak, would be. All right, as you can see, I'm hitting up both the pin and the pad. All right, good job. Wanna deal with this, with that. Good job. Okay, looks relatively okay. I just don't like this guy sticking out too much here because I'm not sure how it sits inside the casing. All right, and this one is a little bit too much here. Okay, but that needs a much more thermal mass. So this is gonna be this guy here. All right. Okay, good job. Excellent. Now the problem with the foil is that everything shines right into your face and you can see much. All right, so here what I want to do is I want to check each one of those pins and see if every single pin is soldered in place. I'm not sure about this guy. Let's zoom in. Let's change the focus. All right. Let's see this guy. No, everything's fine. Okay, everything is nice and fine. All right, what I want to do now is clean everything up. Okay. Let's try. All right, yeah, nothing is shorting. As you can see, everything looks the best it can. Okay. Alrighty. All right, good job. Excellent. I like, beautiful. Yeah. All right, so again, this is as good as it will ever get. So what we use the Kimtech wipes. Those are lint-free wipes, which are supposed to absorb all of the cleaning. All right. Let's flip this guy over. Use the same Kimtech wipes. They're supposed to absorb all of the cleaning solution. All right, and now let's remove the insulation. All right, so just wanted to show you the filters I was talking about. You see those black filters? Right here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're all there. This guy is also here. So nothing flew off the motherboard, and I'm pretty happy. Right, so I just need to use more absorbing wipes to all right. So yeah, don't even attempt to blow air on this because somebody doesn't know how to read. All right. So yeah, I mean, whenever I'm making videos, I have to interrupt myself, remove the gloves. Now I'm in different gloves. So just to answer the call where people can't read where it says just text us. Oh well. Anyway, so this is what how we do a power connector replacement. I will check the motherboard right now and see if it's gonna work fine or not. First, I need to make sure it's nice and dry. So in order for it to be nice and dry, I just need to leave it venting for some time because I don't want any of the cleaning solution to be stuck underneath there someplace or here. So unless it's all dry, I don't wanna test it yet. All right. All right, my friends. You see why we charge a lot more for the USB Type-C repairs? Because it's almost been an hour I've been working on this system. So what I want to do is, thing is when I insert it, some flux probably gonna come out of the connector. All right, we got the USB Type-C here. And before you're gonna plug in a power supply into your USB-C jack, you need to make sure that this is perfectly round. Now this isn't perfectly round and it seems like there is some oxidation on the inside, but I've been using this connector for testing for quite some time, so it might not be looking the best because of the flux that it went in contact with. So I'm using this amperage detector and let's see if it's gonna work. We plug it in and we got 20 volts and 0.0 amps. All right, so good job. Now let's flip this guy over. And nothing. See, there is no handshake when the connector is in the... Oh wait, there is a handshake. That's a good thing. No, there is no handshake anymore. Strange. This is not good. Maybe I didn't insert this guy all the way, or maybe this one is been used so much that that it's pretty much worn on the inside. Yeah, I mean those two, I have several of those, but I need to go downstairs for them. Let's take a look the other way. Let's see if that light gonna come up. No, the light does not come up. About the other way. And the light does not come up the other way. Again, I'm not sure if the light should come up or not, should not come up, but there was a 20 volts. Let me bring up another one of those and see what the other one gonna. Alrighty. Here we got some testing stuff. Let's see what might be causing an issue. So this is, again, I need to clean up. Every time I do a soldering job on one of those, there's a flux gets stuck inside. And when I push it through, the flux gets inside of this guy. And that's sometimes what doesn't make the connection solid. So I have to go through one of those every single month or so. So here, let's plug it in like that. Plug it in like that. Let's see if the connection is solid. Yeah, this connection is solid. Okay, let's flip it over. Yeah, the connection is solid both ways. All right, so I need to find a new one of those. Not find, I need to buy one of those. Anyways, so this is good. I need to mark that it's good. I already brought out the tester to see which pin doesn't work, but all of the pins are working. The voltage goes through. We get 20 volts on the, you know what, I need to make sure that I'm not gonna use this guy anymore. This one is maybe here, bad, okay. So I use one of those to check every single trace. There are 12 traces on the top, 12 traces on the other side. If you take out the connector in a way so that the pads break off the motherboard, then it will still work depending on which position you put this in, because there is the handshake line is only on one side of this guy. So if you put it like that, it's gonna work, but that way it's not gonna work in case one of the rows is taken out. And that's the reason sometimes when you get the laptop back, you can only use it with one way in. You have to mark which way is stop and use that mark to insert in and out all the time. Again, that's a handshake line that boosts the voltage from 5 volts to 20 volts. And that handshake line is only on one side of the row of pins here. So besides plus and a minus, there is a handshake, and the handshake boosts the voltage from 5 volts to 20 volts, and that way, that's how that voltage regulator shows you that it's 20 volts. Again, information is all on usbcrepair.com. Whole bunch of different models there, and all side effects for every single model are there. If you have one of those boards, you can send it in. And yeah, thanks so much. Please leave a like. Subscribe. I will let you know which laptop models I would not pay my money for and which ones I would probably spend my money on. And you guys take care and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.